We're joined this morning by State Representative District 33, Ron Johnson. Ron, good morning to you, sir.
Morning, boy.
Good to have you with us this morning. And
proud to be
we're
here.
Just a few days away from the primary election next Tuesday.
Yeah. People will be relieved. They will have some time that they won't be pestered to death.
Hey, since 1979, you have been our state representative. And did it start off as these parts of three counties, or did we expand that down through the years?
It's changed about every 10 years when we're reevaluated and new things. In '79, it was all of Coosa County and the southern and eastern part of Talladega. Then it was changed to the southern part of Talladega and none of Coosa, none of Clay. Then it was changed again, and it was changed this year. 2 years ago, when the court didn't approve, they had to come back and change it, and they redid it. The court signed off on it, and it will be good for this election, but it will be redistricted in the next session because it'll be 2020 when that has to be done.
The legislative session ended a month or so ago, or maybe 2 months ago, and with that and the re-election campaign, it's been kind of challenging to keep everything balanced, isn't it?
Well, you can't, when you're in session, you have no time because normally you will be working on stuff that's coming up on a Monday. We're down there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. A lot of times the stuff, this session, we had several nights that went to midnight, several Thursday nights that went to midnight. And so Friday mornings are tied up. So when you get home, then you've got a Friday, Saturday, and a Monday morning sometime to try to respond to things that people have called you, problems they're having, and things they need, people they need to talk to, and it just takes full time if you're doing your job to do that, take care of that.
You have always said that you didn't work for the governor, you didn't work for Montgomery, you worked for the voters who put you in office.
That's true, because they're the ones that I have to answer to, I have to live with. It's important to me to convey their wishes to the people in the leadership in Montgomery. Not what the leadership wants, but what the people in the district that are working and paying the bills want.
The last 4 years, what are some of the accomplishments that you're most proud of?
Well, one of the primary things to me happened this past session, and I may have mentioned it before. We have 19,966 pieces of property in this state that there's no tax being paid on because they're under the Revenue Department. And we created a situation this time. A bill was passed for the Revenue Department, and a board will be appointed that will meet and be able to take those after 5 years of ownership or under the Revenue Department, giving people the chance to redeem them and pay them. Those 19,966 have been there over 5 years. Mm-hmm. And it processed. Childersburg has been trying to get one of them for a year and couldn't do it, and that's why the piece of legislation I have found from the mayor of Sylacauga and the pro tem the council that there is some interest here on some property that will fall into that class. And that board that is going to take it over will have a method that the cities or counties may be able to obtain that land for near nothing, because it would take it in and put it back on the list of ad valorem tax being paid on. And in that same thing, where the state was owned, sales tax, income tax, or use tax, those could not be touched. With the piece of legislation I handled, the Revenue Department made it available where those pieces of property or situations could be corrected and go before the board, and that type of property could be available to people that needs it, cities, counties, and individuals.
State Representative Ron Johnson, District 33, our guest this morning. portions of Talladega, Clay, and Coosa counties, and he's been this since 1979. Manufacturing, jobs, any way you want to shake it down. This came out in November of 17. The best places to work in manufacturing, the 2017 edition.
Yeah.
I was shocked to see Talladega and Sylacauga, Alabama at the top.
They're ranked number one, and that's by, as far as I know, a federal group, and it came through the Industrial Development Office. So we were ranked number one in the nation. I think number two may have been South Carolina. Number three was Utah. But as far as the manufacturing jobs, availability of manufacturing jobs, the average salary and everything, it's all in there, and we're ranking number one in that. So
just over 39%, a large chunk of the workforce in this particular area is manufacturing, almost 40%.
Yeah, manufacturing jobs, and of course, some people say well, there's no jobs. I've just informed this week that we have four that would be in the manufacturing, or not retail business, but others that are crying for workers now. Mm-hmm. And it's things that they've got posted, and they're hunting. And I know that one industry approached me about needed money for training, and I hooked them up with the group that they were hunting around $400,000 to train new employees, and I've been told that number that they need is going to be around 200. So those are things that that they contact us about, and we set them up with the people that handle that.
And they're pretty good paying jobs too.
Oh yeah, they're industrial type jobs, yeah, or manufacturing type jobs. So and that piece of paper there that you got does not reflect anything that's happened this year. Mm-hmm. And we've had expansion of existing industry this year, and we've also got a new one that the paperwork's being finalized on. It's going to be 170 to 200 new. It's not located here yet, but they have secured a spec building and the property. So that will be another 100 or so, and the Georgia Pacific redoing their building is their old plan is this year, and that's going to be 110 plus jobs. So we're expanding in the industrial or the manufacturing type jobs.
Talk this morning just a little bit about speaking of jobs and that sort of thing, and manufacturing jobs and new companies coming in. These things don't just happen. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on, and you're not one of those guys that gets out there and toots your own horn, but it takes a lot of work, a lot of connections to see this happen.
The worst thing that can happen is somebody that's not involved, that's in politics, get in it because they can ruin the situation for the people who are professionals and do it. And at the point, I think we've got one of the best ones in the state, maybe the best one in the state. And when it comes something that the senator for the area or the House member for the area need to do, he picks up the phone, calls, tells us what we want to do, we go take care of it. A lot of industries do not want anything out until it's time for the stuff to be announced, made proper, and that's through our Industrial Development Office. So we stay out of it, I do, until he calls and said, Ron, we need so-and-so and so. And we're in the process now where I've secured a road that's got to be widened 2 feet on each side and paved thicker because of the way the truck's going on it. So that's something that's in the process of occurring now. And it's in the county, and the county will be participating in supply of the money.
Just the industrial complex here in Sylacauga, the amount of truck traffic that's out there is phenomenal. And you got AKO who brought the shingle plant to Sylacauga, and all these spin-offs come in to support this industry.
Yeah, and I live on that road. And when I came by this morning a little before 5 o'clock, there were 7 trucks waiting to be weighed to go in and be loaded. Mm-hmm. So at the last I heard, on the count, and that comes from the state. There was something a little less than 10,000 vehicles a day on Gene Stewart Boulevard and County Road 002, and there was a little less than 1,000 18-wheelers a day that are in and off from the industrial park, or actually from Omnia, all the way to 280. So that is something, and there is some stuff going on now that it's going to be up to professional engineers how to correct that situation. But it may be that there's a lane needed or areas along 002 for trucks to pull over and be out of the way to get in IKO. That is something that is severely needed.
And the marble quarry has been a huge plus for us.
Well, great. And the marble quarries, one thing about them now, they load 24 hours a day. Heritage Plastic and IKO and Atlas, they start loading at 7 in the morning and usually stop around 5 in the afternoon. But this is something that needs to be corrected, and we're in the process, and the city and county are both involved in it. So we're looking at what's got to be done, and that will be something based on the engineers and the counts.
I want to look at this morning. This is presented to Alabama Representative Ron Johnson, the AAP 2014 Legislative Hero, in recognition of his leadership to improve child health and safety by sponsoring the Safe at Schools Act and 2014 tanning bed legislation. This is from the Alabama chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And, you know, when you receive an award like this, it's got to make you feel really good knowing you're helping our children.
Well, that was back then when that happened. And there's been several of those from the nursing home group, from the hospital group, from physicians, but that was a response that a parent was having here, and I went and sat down with the medical people, and they brought in the pediatric group, and that was legislation that they drafted to respond to a situation a family was having up here. And turned out, after they got involved in it, it was a problem that was occurring statewide, and it was an immense relief to the pediatricians for what happened. So it's when people come to me with a problem, then I go to the group in Montgomery that handles that problem, because sometimes I may be totally ignorant about what the problem is and what it needs to be corrected, and the people that need to correct situations like that are people that are involved and know it, and then it can be something that is beneficial to where the problem is occurring.
I noticed yesterday, and we've seen violence in our schools all across the country, and I saw yesterday where Governor Ivey made the announcement that there was going to be immediate attention paid to administrator training for weapons to be housed in the schools. And, you know, I don't know a whole lot about that, but I do know this. Safety is paramount in our schools for our children.
Well, that is something, and I think we talked about it earlier. I think mothers and daddies that have kids in school needed a tremendous amount of input on correcting that situation. The teachers that are actually in the classroom where just about every bit of this has happened needs to be very strong in the input. And the police that are trained for the schools to take care of these kinds of situations needs to be, it does not need to be solved, but in my opinion, by a group that has no actual day-to-day experience of it. I mean, it's one thing to listen to people that can take this solution out of a book, you know, but the solution to that problem needs to occur with the blessings of the people that are actually doing the work and being exposed to the results of that. So I don't know, I have not seen what the governor's proposing. I don't know what kind of study was done, if there was one or anything, but it's just one that I told you before, that is something, if we're successful next Tuesday, that I'm going to try to get together on a local basis that will involve teachers, parents, and law enforcement people. And I've already talked to a couple of law enforcement people that are trained. It's just not the guys that are on the street every day, but these are the ones that are in the schools. We need to sit down with them, and if we can work something out, then we can address that problem in a general bill in the legislature. If that is something that's good, every county may be different. Every school system may be different. But the ones that need to be happy with what's done or satisfied or confident what's done is good are the mamas and daddies that have kids at school, the teachers that are in the classroom with them, and the police that are there to protect them. Yeah. They need to have the input in what they think's best.
Well, there's a big stir now about across our country of taking the weapons away from their owners, and it's the weapon manufacturer's fault that we're having these type shootings in our schools.
Well, I've talked to teachers, and a lot of teachers do not want to bear a firearm. Some don't mind. Some teachers are active hunters and been active with firearms, and it doesn't have them upset. But that's what I mean. What we need to propose is what is best for the situation. And a lot of the teachers I've talked to said, "Ron, we don't want to bear any guns. We don't want to have any guns. We don't want to have to do anything like that." So that is something we need to take into consideration. I just know that, and this may be not related to the education, but we had a thing where a lot of the industry didn't want anybody on their property with a firearm. And after the testimony and everything, I was talking to one of the gentlemen, and I said, "Let me ask you something." He said, "What's that?" I said, "Assume you've got a wife that's a nurse, and she's working at one of the big hospitals, and she gets off at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Hospital does not provide escort for all of them to their vehicles. They don't provide escort coming out of town. Would you want your wife to be coming out of a place like that and not have any method to protect herself?" He said, "I hadn't thought of that." I said, "Well, if that is the case, she couldn't have a gun in her car because she would be parking on a hospital property. She could not have anything to protect herself and could be subject to being by herself that late at night, could be subject to having problems." Mm-hmm. So I believe that you ought to be able to bear a firearm when you're out. I just don't believe in removing firearms from people.
We have seen this in our district in the past several years about our trade going across the waters to another country, and we lost Avondale Mills, and I don't know if we fully recovered from that or not. I know it was a place of employment for a lot of people in their lifetime. Talk about this morning our trade laws and what is killing American jobs, if that would be the word for it, about the new paper tariffs.
Well, if you see coming from that industry, they said that it is going to cost us jobs and production in this country. And that is something that the federal government is now in the process of addressing, the president and Congress. And that is something that they need to be aware of. And for industries that have that type of business, it could severely affect them because if they lessen production, they'll lessen employees, and that needs to be addressed. And that's something that Congress has to address. And it's something that cannot be addressed on the state level because it's interstate commerce. So it's something that needs to be addressed by this, and people need to convey to their elected congressional officials how they feel about it, not state officials. We don't have a thing to do with it. It has to do with interstate commerce.
State Representative Ron Johnson, District 33, our guest for a few more moments. And I know you've been a real advocate for our veterans and for our seniors. And, our veterans, man, we owe them everything.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we have a guy, Brother Edward Jenkins, that doesn't get paid a penny. But I can tell you, Clay County, Coosa County, Talladega County, people know him because he deals with to help veterans. I'm in the process now of trying to help one that was in service for 17 years, and the VA refuses to even give him a card.
Does that boil your blood when,
I mean, I cannot understand our government being so discriminating against veterans. I just don't understand it. And normally, when you pick up the phone, get the right person on the line, it can be corrected. It's done by somebody at a desk, and I don't know why. But I have one from the Fayetteville area. He was on a carrier, and they were over and the planes off the carriers were going in bombing. Well, the planes over there, the helicopters were putting out Agent Orange, and those planes were flying through that, and the bombs were blowing up in the air. And then the planes would come back to the ship, and they were having to clean the planes before they could go out again. He's got cancer 3 places, and his physician has said there's no doubt in my mind this cancer is caused by Agent Orange. Yet the VA has refused to address that problem and treat him for that. And he has come to me, and I've gotten him to give the paperwork to Brother Jenkins, and from there, Brother Jenkins will tell me who and what, and we will go from there. But hopefully we're going to be able to get that covered for him within a very short period of time.
And this is not an exception to the rule. You see this happen a lot.
Oh, yeah. And it's amazing to me, and I hope our president will correct this in a hurry. We have problems. Last time I checked, the nursing home for veterans in Pell City was 274, and the one in Elliott City was 220 something like that. And there's just no room for them. And we've got some small rural hospitals that are closing. If we can get it where the VA will pay those little hospitals for veteran coverage, and instead of that little hospital sitting there and falling on the ground, we could get them opened up where the nursing homes could take them over. And if the city owned or county owned could take them over, run them, be reimbursed, and then pay the city or the county part of that for maintaining. So, or provide them, and that would give us in local areas, the one over in Roanoke went under. So that would give us some close to here for the families. I had one guy that the closest one we could get him in was 90 miles north of Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow.
So I went and got VA to agree to pay, and I got him down at Luverne. Then I was able to move him up to Tallahassee. And we finally got him up here for the family. So they did not have to make those trips on at least two times a week basis.
When you first started in 1979, you were new to the legislature, but over the years, and you can see it now very clearly and have seen for some time, you build connections. You build connections where you're crossing the T's and dotting the I's, and when something like this develops, you kind of know where to go with it.
Well, I tell you, this happened Tuesday night of last week. It's something I ran into in Millville. That's not been in my district, so I had no reason to know it, but I ran into that about a month ago from a lady. And I was over at the volunteer fire department Tuesday night at a place called Idaho. There was not one person at that meeting that had a cell phone that didn't say no service.
Wow.
So I got some people over there, got a call yesterday from the big boss. He is setting up a meeting with them. There may be something on the radio station over there, the lady that owns that they talk to her, and there may be a station where the guy comes on and talks and takes questions, but they're setting up a meeting for the people in that area that have no phone service. You got people on the road, especially ladies at night. They have a flat tire. They have no phone service.
It's amazing.
And that's got to be corrected. And hopefully that is fixing to happen in a pretty short basis, because the big boss man that's over that company that has that area is supposed to be making a call to the lady on the radio station and letting her set it up. And I don't know what the time frame is on that, but I hope it's within the next 2 or 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. State Representative Ron Johnson, our guest this morning. Before we say goodbye today, we want to talk about, and our country is a senior-laden country. There are a lot of seniors and a lot of challenges that they face, in 2018. Talk about that just a little bit.
Well, seniors are a lot of the ones that paid the price for us to be where we are now. I have friends, one of them's well over 40 years with Alabama Power. One of them is well over 50 years with one of the quarries. A couple of them are at the old Kimberly Clark. They've been, one of them's 47 years, one of them's 46 years. And those people that are interested, I don't know what we'd do without them. They're able to train and teach what we need them to do better than anybody else. So the people over the years, whatever they do, and I had a pharmacy, James Hobson and I had a pharmacy for years. And then Eddie Thomas and I had durable medical equipment and home health for years. And so I'm not in politics as a living. I enjoyed my profession from both of those. And one of the ladies told me, she said, "Well, Ron, I didn't know you were a pharmacist." I said, "Well, I paid the price. I went to school, got that degree." And she said, "Well, that sure does make a change in my mind about what she said, "I just thought you were totally into politics, never been anything else." And I said, "No, ma'am." I said, "I spent a good 20 years doing pharmacy, and then a good 20 years as people that did involved with people supplying oxygen, hospital beds, wheelchairs, and stuff like that to people that needed it." So I understand the profession. I understand having people that are able, through experience, actual live experience, they can accomplish more than people that don't know where to start to do anything.
Finally this morning, why should people go to the polls Tuesday, June 5th in the Republican primary and mark the name Ron Johnson?
I hope it's because they think I have done a good job, that I've taken care of the situations they have let me know about. I just think I hope it's because I've done a good job. And but the important thing to me is that that's one of the few things we got left we can do is go and vote. And I hope that people will take time, go vote Tuesday. I hope it's good for me. If it's not, that's the price I've had to pay. So it's probably the last nice freedom we've got left. And I hope we appreciate it.
State Representative Ron Johnson, our guest this morning here on Daybreak. Appreciate him spending a few minutes with us, and thank you for joining us for the show today. I hope to see you again on Monday morning. You're watching Daybreak Live.